Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I have a Zepbound update for you, and this time it's a good one. My prior authorization was approved for another full year. And considering what I went through the first time I had to get Zepbound approved way back in February of last year, I was honestly expecting a fight this time, especially since I'm under a new PBM. But this time, it was approved the same day that my doctor's office submitted information that had been missing. And that got me thinking, what was different about it this time? Well, the short answer is a lot. And after going through the prior authorization process multiple times since starting Zepbound, like I said, in February of last year, I have learned some things that I think could really help anyone who is currently awaiting on a PA or who knows they're going to have to do one soon. So today I want to walk you through my experience, what happened this time, and probably the most important lesson that I've learned. You cannot always afford to just sit back and wait for the insurance company to call you. So let's take a trip back in time to February 2025. For those of you who are new here, that is when I first started taking Zepbound. At my doctor's appointment at the beginning of February 2025, he and I discussed that my health was not improving. I had been trying everything, every diet, every exercise, intermittent fasting. I even did, without his blessing, severe calorie restriction, which is a completely stupid and idiotic thing to do. I do not recommend it. So I finally got to that point where I just accepted the fact that I needed to try a GLP-1. This had been something that had been mentioned to me before as an option, but I always dug my heels in thinking I could do it on my own. And I finally got to the point where I'm like, well, don't want to get diabetes, don't want to die of a heart attack, don't want to have a stroke. So yeah, let's go ahead and try a GLP-1 and see what happens. That first prior authorization, it was an absolute mess. It was like I was being set up for failure. All these roadblocks kept coming up every time I felt like I was reaching the finish line. It took weeks, multiple submissions, multiple phone calls, and several appeals. And I learned a lesson that has stuck with me ever since then. Don't assume that because you've submitted your paperwork that everything is actually moving forward. It is surprising how things just sit there and gather dust until somebody marks them as denied because they are missing key information. Okay, moving along. About 6 months into treatment, I had to go through the whole process again. This time, the insurance company wanted to know things like how much weight had I lost, what was my original BMI, what was my current weight and BMI, was I continuing a lifestyle program? How long had I been doing it? Did I have a weight-related medical condition? Had my health improved? Was I taking any other weight loss medications? And other questions specific to my medical history and treatment. In my case, I was easily able to demonstrate that I lost their minimum requirement of 5% of the starting body weight. I was well over that at that point, and my health certainly had improved significantly by that point. My blood pressure had normalized, my A1C had improved, and my cholesterol had improved. That resulted in another 12-month approval. And this is important. Your prior authorization requirements are going to depend on your specific insurance plan. What my insurance company required is not necessarily what yours will require. So don't assume that because something worked for me, it will automatically be enough for you. It may not. So then my PBM changed. And just when I thought I had this whole process figured out, here we go again. In January 2026, my employer switched to CVS Caremark, and suddenly I was back in that uncomfortable place of wondering, is Zepbound going to be covered or is it going to disappear? And I'm going to have to start this whole thing all over again. Now, coincidentally, this happened back when CVS was yanking Zepbound from its formulary. So I was extra nervous because of that. I couldn't see any information about my prior authorization, and I was told it would seamlessly transfer over from one PBM to the next. So naturally, I was nervous and I called them. And that phone call was, let's just say, it was not my favorite customer service experience. The first representative told me my Zepbound was approved, but claimed that my 1 month cost would be more than $3,100. And of course, I knew that could not be right. That just seemed astronomical. That was even more than at the time people were paying for out-of-pocket costs. And after a lot of back and forth, I asked to speak with someone at a higher level. Yes, guys, I asked to speak to the manager. Desperate times call for desperate measures. Eventually, from that person, I got the answers that I needed. My prior authorization had transferred over. It was valid through August 2026. And my actual cost was dramatically lower than what I had initially been told, thankfully. That experience reinforced another lesson, though. If the information you are being given does not make sense to you, do not be afraid to ask for clarification or ask to speak with someone else. Ask to speak to the manager. So here we are. This is bringing us up to today. My prior authorization was, of course, coming up for renewal. I knew that. This time the request was submitted as a continuation of treatment, and that distinction is so very important. I am no longer the person who started Zepbound in February 2025. My health has changed dramatically. I'm now in a healthy weight range. My blood pressure is normal. My A1C is normal. Now, my cholesterol is still a little high, but it is dramatically better than it was before I started treatment. And yet I still needed to go through the prior authorization process again. My doctor submitted the paperwork, and then I waited. 1 week passed. I was trying to be patient, but I was starting to get itchy at that 1 week mark. And when I checked the status online, it was still sitting there as in review. And immediately I thought, here we go again. But instead of waiting another week or 2 or 3, I picked up the phone. And that's when I discovered there actually was a problem. CVS Caremark had received the prior authorization submission, but they were missing my medical records. So the PA was basically sitting there waiting for information that they didn't have. Nobody told me. Nobody called me. So I'm glad I called them. Anyhow, I contacted my doctor's office right away, and they resubmitted my medical records to CVS. And once those records were received, I was approved that same day. I want to say it happened within an hour or 2. It was super fast. Now, I know that some people are going to hear this and say, Stephanie, you were approved. What is the big deal? The big deal is it could have taken weeks longer. If I had simply logged into my account and saw the words in review and decided to wait, I might still be waiting, or I might have eventually been denied because of that missing information. Instead, I called them. I found out what was missing. I contacted my doctor's office. They sent the information, and the PA moved forward and was approved. So this happened to me over and over throughout my journey. The first time, the PA was denied because information was missing. The next submission was mishandled as a duplicate. An appeal was denied because specific language wasn't included. Later, another PA required documentation showing my progress. And now, this time, my medical records were missing. None of those things were necessarily obvious from simply looking at the status online. This is why I believe that being proactive can make such a huge difference when you're going through this process. So if you are about to start a prior authorization process or you're waiting on one, here are the things that I would personally do. Number one, find out exactly what your insurance requires. Don't rely solely on what you think they need. Ask. And if they give you instructions, write them down. Every single word. The date, the time, the representative's name or ID number if it's available, exactly what documents they say are required, and exactly where those documents need to be sent. Number two, don't assume your doctor's office has everything they need. Your doctor's office may be incredibly experienced with prior authorizations, or they may not. And even if they submit hundreds of them, insurance requirements can vary dramatically from one plan to another. So if your insurance tells you something specific is required, make sure your doctor's office knows about it. Number three, make sure you follow up. This one is huge. If your PA is supposed to take 5 business days and you're still waiting after 5 business days, call them. If it's sitting in review status and nothing seems to be happening, call. If the insurance company says they are waiting for something, find out what it is. Don't assume that somebody else is monitoring it. Number 4, read the denial letter yourself. If you are denied, don't just accept the word denied. Find out why. And read the actual denial letter, because in my experience, the information you get over the phone isn't always the complete picture. The written documents may contain additional requirements that were not explained to you during the phone call. Number 5, keep records. I cannot emphasize this enough. Create a folder, keep your PA approval letters, keep your denial letters, keep copies of your medical records and documentation, keep your weight history, keep track of your medications, and keep track of your conversations with insurance. Because when something goes wrong, and sometimes it does, you want a paper trail. Now, there's one other thing I want to address with you guys. After all this and being in the healthy weight range and having my blood pressure in the healthy range, having my A1C be normal, I still do not consider myself to be in the maintenance phase yet. It's not because I necessarily want to lose more weight. I mean, I could lose, another 5 pounds or so, I suppose, but that's not why I don't consider myself in maintenance. I'm actually very happy weight-wise with where I am right now. But for me, maintenance is not just about reaching a certain number on the scale. I want to make sure my health is stable. I want to see what my numbers look like when I have my labs checked again in September. And I want to continue focusing on things like adequate protein intake, strength training, and maintaining muscle mass. So while I'm exponentially healthier than I was when I started this journey, I'm still paying close attention to what happens next. And that's another reason that I'm grateful for this 1-year approval. It does give me a bit of breathing room to find my path in all of this. But I also know that insurance policies can change. Formularies can change. PBMs can change, and prior authorization requirements can also change. So I am not going to assume that today's approval guarantees anything beyond the approval period. And I want to leave you with this. If you're currently fighting with your insurance company over a prior authorization, I know how frustrating this can be. I have been there. I have sat on the phone trying to figure out what information was missing. I've been denied. I have appealed. I've had information submitted incorrectly. I've had requirements communicated to me incompletely. And I have wondered on more than one occasion if I was ever going to get through the process at all. But I've also learned that you are allowed to ask questions. You're allowed to call them back. You're allowed to ask them exactly what is missing. You are allowed to read the instructions back to the representative that gave them to you and make sure you understand everything. And you absolutely are 100% allowed to advocate for yourself, and you should. That does not mean that you're always going to win. And I don't want to give anyone false hope that simply by making more phone calls, it guarantees you an approval. Unfortunately, it does not guarantee anything. But being proactive can sometimes prevent a delay from becoming a much bigger problem. In my own case, I honestly believe that it saved me weeks, if not months, of waiting in total, of course, over the course of this journey. So that, my friends, is my latest Zepbound update. So, yep, 1 year approved, and for the first time, the process actually went relatively smoothly. There was a little hiccup, but it was fine. Let's hope I did not just jinx myself for next year's. If you are going through a prior authorization right now, let me know in the comments. I'd really love to hear what your insurance company is requiring and whether you've had a smooth experience or one of those what the heck is going on here experiences that seems to come with this process. And as always, I am sharing my experience, not giving medical or insurance advice. Talk to your healthcare provider and your insurance company about your specific situation. Thank you so much for watching today, and I will see you in the next video.